Okay, so this has been through the this washer quite a few times now. I think this is as good as I'm going to get. I've just actually blown this out a couple of hours ago and just left it to dry out. So I'm going to start putting this carburetor back together now. There is a video on the channel already of me rebuilding this carburetor, so if you look back through the Yamaha job videos, I think it might be part 9 or part 11 of the original ones I've got. But basically I've got all these parts nice and clean. Some have come up better than others. Let's see if I can get a focus on that. But a lot of these screws have come up really nice and like new actually, come up really well. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with most of it. It's just taking a few more goes than I would like, but it's an old part. As I say, I'm maybe being a bit optimistic trying to get it to look exactly like new, but it's as clean as it's ever been. So I'm going to rebuild this now and we'll start putting these bits back on this bike, and we'll get this bike running again with any luck. I'm just filming this really as a reminder to me, so I know it'll go on the channel just to where everything goes, and for anybody else who can't find the other previous videos where these main jets go and all screw in, I'm just making sure this needle's moving up and down nicely here as well, which I can see it is. It's all lifting and dropping where it should. This is the float ball, it'll set itself at a level. And this little gasket is softened up quite nicely. This looks a lot better than it did when it's been in this ultrasonic cleaner. So all I've got really left to do is just to put the bottom part on and just screw this back in as well, and I've got to put these adjustment screws in the side of it here. Right, so we've got this thing rebuilt back up. I'm going to put this back on the bike now, and it's funny, but you don't really realise until you look back at some videos, this has cleaned up pretty good actually. It's obviously 30-year-old, but I'm going to get this back on this bike. So all I've really got to do is put these parts on. The awkward bit about this used to be this little part here. This is the like the inlet for the oil, where the two-stroke oil goes. It basically goes from here, where you top it up, and it runs around an auto loop system from the bottom. It runs right around all the plastic part, and it comes in here. And the pipe used to be just a bit too short, so I've actually redone all that pipe work and left myself about an inch, so I can push this on, and it's a lot easier to get on than it used to be. I'm not sure where I've hidden that just at the minute, but I'm going to find that one and put that on first. But before I can do that, it's actually just back here. I don't know if you can see under there, it's actually hiding under here. What I've actually got to do first is just put this, there's a plastic cover here. I've got to get all this back on first, and all these pipes clip to this housing and run right around the back, and it only goes around one way. It actually runs right around the back of here, right to the bottom of here where all these other pipes come in for the these fuel hoses come in, and then you push this one on first. Then I normally put the choke on and put the other two parts on last. This is the main fuel lining, and this is the one that goes from the fuel tap or the petcock, which we've replaced now. So I'm hoping to get better starting from this bike. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the plastic cover back on, reroute this auto loop pipe, and basically push this back straight back into this, into this inlet manifold. You can see that I've actually replaced that before. On the previous videos, that was moving away. It was actually coming away from the actual engine itself and causing me some running problems. So we'll get this bike rebuilt. I'm just fiddling about with this plastic like cowling. I was just thinking about that, making sure I get this pushed back in together. It actually connects with the box that covers the fan on the other side where you keep the bike off. So I've actually got that in. That's the way around it goes. I'll just film that as well. I was just thinking about that when I did it, 'cause it's actually Saturday night at the minute. But anyway, I'm messing with that. I actually thought to myself, I'd rather be playing with my Cowling than watching Simon Cowell. So I don't do many jokes, but there you go. What I'm trying to get to is, now I've got this push down here, and you can see it all sits on top. It's easy to take the spark plug out, by the way. Found that after about 30 seconds or a minute, maybe a little bit longer if I'm being honest. But now I've got that on, what I want to show is I can get this pipe here. This actually goes to the auto loop, from the auto loop pump underneath, right from the tank up at the top. And this is the tube that I was going on about that actually fits on here. That actually goes on this part here, and that connects on. You just push this on like that, and that's for the auto loop pump. That's the worst bit to get on. So I'm going to have a bit of a mess about taking this spark plug up and get this cowling all settled down in here. And I'm going to get this fuel line connected back up. We'll connect this air line that goes from this fuel pump here, and we'll get this automatic choke connected back up as well. I'm just going to push this carburetor back on here now. You can see here I've got a little bit of spare on the back of there. I never used to have that. This used to end here and I used to have a real job getting it back on. So I'll just push this back in. It should all still be backed off. It's still a little bit tight to get in. I thought that should be alright, so I backed it off quite a lot to take it out, so I'm going to have to back this off even further and we'll come back and we'll put that back in. It's a little bit of a pain is this, because this Jubilee clip here, you've actually got to get a flat-headed screwdriver in here to tighten this back up. I could get a socket on it and that's alright for taking it off, but once I push this into position, it's a little bit difficult to get in with a socket and tighten it back up, which is why I don't like backing it off too far. What I normally have to do is get a really long screwdriver or an extension, take it down the back of this shock and tighten it up from there. So it's not really so well designed for me to do, but it's not a big job. It's just, you know, a little bit fiddly. Now I've got to start taking this off again. That's going to take me a little bit of time. What I sometimes try and do is just get a really little screwdriver in and undo it, but you can never get enough sort of pressure on to tighten it back up, so I'll have to back this off. You might just be able to see I've actually just had to make myself like an extended screwdriver just to get in here to undo this. It's a real bit of a pain, but it's the only way I can do it properly, and might just end up pulling the whole thing off, to be honest, and backing it off. It might just be easier if I can get it off. Yeah, I can now. But yeah, I just got myself a massive screwdriver with a flexible end on here, and although I could get it off with my fingers, I will have to of course use that to put it back on in a minute. So hopefully this carburetor will push back on now. Just pick my bits up off the floor, just dropped. Probably would have been easy to pull this off, but as you say, it's one of them things, isn't it? You start doing it and realise you could have done it, but I do need that tool to put it back on. So yeah, it's looking a little bit lost. Takes a little bit of dirt out of there. Yeah, I'm just checking that it all goes in straight. So what I need to do now is just back this part off here. I'm going to back it right off, clean it off a little bit. I should be able to undo this. It looks, obviously the bike's been garaged, but it's been cold in here over the winter. These parts are looking a little bit tired, so that goes on a lot better. Now I can undo that part up and make it quite big. I want to get that screw lined up so it's easy for me to get this driver in as well. So I'll get that there. Try and get the angle up a bit. Really difficult to get in, and this carburetor should push back on, which it does now. Make sure that goes all the way back, and make sure I've still got this here. I'm just going to put my head in there so I can get to the screw yet. I can still see that screw at the back of there to get to there. So what I want to do next is work out the right order to put things back on. I think what I normally do is I normally drop the choke on first here, and screw that back in, and that just leaves me the two other parts to put on. This fuel line here. Just reaching for some tools. I normally pause these clips, but sometimes it's just easy to just keep going. It's just a bit fiddly to get in, that's the only thing. I'll get that one in there. I've got a smaller screwdriver somewhere, if I can remember where I've put it. And I'll fasten this back one up as well. This is the automatic choke. I'm hoping there's nothing wrong with this, because I did buy another one that I've now returned, which was the wrong part, unfortunately for me. So I'm just going to get the right tool for that, which is a smaller Phillips head screwdriver, and tighten that up at the back and at the front, and then I'll come back and we'll put these last few pipes on here. Make sure everything looks exactly the way it did before we took it off. So just remembering what I've done in the past, it's common sense. Once you've stopped filming, of course, you might have noticed that it'd be a lot easier to put this choke on before I push this carburetor back, which is of course what I've exactly remembered to do. So I'll put the choke back on first and I'll just push this back in. And I won't tighten it up at the back on this massive Jubilee clip until I'm absolutely sure that I've not got any leaks or anything like that. So I've got that back on, I've remembered what to do. I'm going to take this screw off here. This is for the one that's gone to, this goes to our new petrol tank here. Try and wave it about a bit. This goes to our new petrol tank and our new fuel tap at the top. I'm going to push this one on here at the back. Let's just get some wires out of the way. That just slips on there. I don't know if you can see. Not so good, is it? It's a little bit dark in here tonight. It's getting darker now. Push that one at the back. Now what I need to do next is, this is the fuel line, and there's a little bit of fuel in this tank. I've drained a lot of it out, but there will be some in this line. What I need to quickly do is that I'm going to take this out and I'm just going to push it onto the top of this carburetor. Now before I do that, there is actually a drain hole at the bottom of this carburetor. If everything starts overflowing, I can actually drain it out through here. But what I could do is I could clamp this fuel line with some mole grips just in case it does leak. Put it on that. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to clamp it yet, I'm just going to take this off quickly and put this on here. But before I do it, I'm just going to go and find some mole grips in case it is leaking, so I can stop it from here. Or I could just quickly push this, pull this screw back out and put it back in the pipe. But I'll tell you what we'll do it now. Just one little tip, rather than having fuel absolutely everywhere, sometimes best just to get a little plan together. So if you get that in there, we'll get this fuel line pushed on here. Just have to back that off a little bit more. I don't think I'm getting wet yet, so I'm alright. We're just still a little bit tight. Should have done that first, of course. Right, it should easily go on there now. Yeah, just eventually get in there. That's the fuel line back on. Need to just swing this out the way because I've got to get this throttle back in. And what I'm looking for now before I do anything else is to make sure this carburetor is pushed back properly. I'm going to get it nice and level as well. Just visually make sure it's not on an angle, not too far this way across here. Just make sure it gets nice and tight. And this is why you must tighten it up again at the back as well on that awkward little clip. So we'll get that somewhere near level. And what I'm looking for here is any leaking. If it's having a problem and it's overflowing this bowl here, you'll actually see it starts to come out the bottom. But so far it looks okay. Just push this fuel line on a bit further if I can. And it's plenty on there, that's okay. So I'll tighten that back up. Could have done with getting new ones of these, but I've actually replaced these when I replaced them initially. I just like to put these on just to tighten them up. But it's going to be a little bit of a pain. I need to get this throttle on as well. Just a little bit fiddly to get in. So I've got the throttle cable left to put on here, and I'll make sure all these parts are tight. I'll tighten this one up at the back, and we could give it a test, I suppose. So I've got the throttle cable in. With this air filter box off, it's really easy to see what's happening, but when you put it back on, the only problem when I'm trying to get the bike set up again is the air filter box covers all this area here. And I need to get to these two adjustment screws when I've sort of ride it down the street. I need to alter these, and this air filter box comes right to here, and it's really difficult with the panels on to get in and find the screws around the back and adjust it. And I've often wondered about putting a little filter in here just to try and get it running a bit better. It's always a little bit fiddly the first few times I ride it, just getting the adjustments correct. So I'm going to put this is the throttle cable. It'd be just great if you could see what you were doing and set the bike up. Not sure what it's set like on the newer bikes to work on, but I'll just pop that in there. Make sure it's all seated correctly. A little bit fiddly. Just go in. Pretty sure it only goes in one way as well. See if they're correct or not. I think that's it, yeah. Just take this off here. I'll spin the screen on so I can see what I'm filming. What we're trying to show here is when it drops in, you can see here how it adjusts. Obviously I'm yet to screw it in at the top, but I've been looking at a few forums and things like that, and we're starting to think that the lower this is, the more it's naturally choking the bike, the easier the bike will start. So I'm going to set this quite low. When I get this on, I'm going to set this quite low. If I remember correctly, you can do it with one of these. It's one of these screws that does that. I'm not exactly remembering correctly. I'll have to look back, make sure I'm not missing something off here as well. May well be missing a part here. I'll have a look on that, but I want to get the gap here set correctly on this throttle. I'm just trying to lean on the floor. Because I want to get it as low as I can without the bike actually not idling correctly and not running correctly. But this is where the throttle cable sits. I'm just doing this to help anyone out who has this bike as well and is looking to set this gap. I've got this back on, and what I was trying to show is the actual adjustment screw here. This is the adjustment screw. I can't show you this once I've got the panels back on and the air filter, but if I take this anti-clockwise you'll actually see this gap decrease. It'll actually get smaller. You can see there and I've read that it can be a lot more beneficial to getting the bike started, as I think it's a while ago since I read it, but I think it's just naturally choking the bike more, which makes it easier to start. So I'm going to start by setting that quite low. I can feel the screws quite slack at that, so I'll just take it back a little bit. I'm sure there'll probably be a specific setting, but I'm going to start there. That's still, I think, quite a bit lower than it's been before. We'll see what we get, see how it runs. I've got this connected back up on, so I've got all the carburetor back on the top. And I quite like filming these live videos because sometimes you can't remember, can you? And I should know, but I can't actually remember what was in there, which is all a bit weird and all a bit sort of amateurish. I've got this pipe to push back on at the back as well. I've just seen that drop down as well. But I'm going to watch back. I've got the advantage of being able to watch back the previous videos that I've done, so I can watch those back and just remind myself. I just looked back on the repairing lawnmowers for profit video when I did this, and there is actually nothing in here. Now I might be missing something. I mean, there's a thread in there, so I'm pretty sure something could go in it. And maybe, I'm not saying that's the cause of my problems, but I will be having a look and finding a parts diagram for this. But I'm actually meeting someone for a drink in about 10 minutes. I have to go out, but I'm going to tip a little bit of fuel in here, and I'm actually going to just try and fire this bike up. But the guy I'm meeting was actually telling me the other night, his granddad actually died starting a lawnmower. You know, when you pull the pull cord and it won't start. He said, he obviously, well, he said he didn't witness it as a child, but he said, you know, when you get a bit raj because it won't start and you just keep pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. Apparently he had a massive heart attack and died. Which, anyway, he was telling me that the other night, which I thought was a bit sad, but I'll have to watch out for that one. So I'm going to put a bit of fuel in here now, and we'll just have a couple of goes at getting it going, and I'm going to go out.